Welcome to Writers Not Writing, a show where I interview authors about the ways they procrastinate and highlight artists who are using their voices to push back against fascism. I'm Benjamin Gorman, your friendly author in exile, and the quiet guy behind the glass there is Doug the producer. I write novels and collections of poetry and stuff. Doug does his best to try to make me sound better. Welcome to Writers Not Writing. Welcome to the ad-free bonus version of the show, just for supporters of the Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. Yes, you are the best.
If I take my time.
Hail and well met readers and reviewers. I'm very excited about today's show. So I have a very special guest. Today's guest is my wife. This is Chrys Gorman. Chrys Gorman is Benjamin Gorman's wife. She is a fierce and outspoken advocate for queer and neurodivergent representation. She's the executive merchandising director for NotAPipePublishing. She lives in Barcelona with Benjamin, her daughter Frankie, and their 3 dogs and 2 cats. Welcome. I'm very glad to have you here today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I've been excited to talk to you because you are the executive director of merchandising for a small press. Tell everybody a little bit about what all that entails, because there's been a lot going on lately.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot. Originally, it started when we first started dating at comic conventions. The first one I went to with Not a Pipe, I kind of took a look at the table and went, no, I'm going to change all of this.
Because it's all books.
It's all books,
so
and it's all very straightforward and very, each book in its own rack, and everything was kind of, I have 80...
When she says straightforward, she means straight forward. It was very, very straight presenting.
Very,
that's me.
Very basic, that's fine.
But also, as opposed to in any way queer.
Yes.
It was very, this is a straight guy's idea of what a table should look like.
I'm going to interject there. There is a straight, that is a straight neurotypical way that a table would look.
Yes.
And so I kind of, I have ADHD, and so I looked at it and went, no, we need to attract my people.
Right.
We need to attract the ADHDs.
Yes.
And so that is how it started, of let's start expanding. Let's get some stickers. Let's get some pens. And then it went to earrings and bookmarks. And
I will acknowledge, I was very resistant to this. So my worry going into merchandising beyond the books was, oh no, we're going to become a merch company rather than a publishing company. And wouldn't it be terrible if we ended up selling a whole lot of stickers and t-shirts and pens and all this stuff and we weren't selling books. And it took me a while to stop being resistant to this idea that actually it would be kind of great if books and t-shirts and pens and all that were funding producing more high-quality books. I mean, the emphasis is getting books into readers' hands, of course, right? But if we could get to a place where we could be paying those authors more, we could be, connecting that merch to those books, and people were saying, oh, I got this shirt, and I got this sticker from you, and now I'm coming back, and I'm buying a book. And so she had to kind of talk me into, it's okay to sell merch. And that has been very good for us.
I had him almost talked into it, and then I did it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission, and I just ordered a bunch of custom stickers and said, hey, Ben, guess what I've got? And then he kind of got distracted enough by that I was then able to go in and order a bunch of pins and earrings, and then the next thing you knew. But what actually did the trick was the first event that we went to after I had all of this merchandise, this stuff stocked up, was the Portland Book Fest.
Yes.
And because he was a teacher, the first night of Portland Book Fest it's only like a 2-hour.
It's a Friday night for just a couple hours, and then Saturday all day.
But he was in school, so I had to go set up the booth myself. So I was able to set it up in a way that I thought was a little more eye-catching, a little more welcoming for people, with all of that merchandise. And then after those 2 hours, I sent Ben a message. He was on his way up to meet me. I sent a message and said, guess how much we did in sales today. And in that span of 2 hours, we had more sales than we had the previous weekend at a 3-day comic convention.
Right.
And so he was like, you did that in 2 hours. And so I was explaining to him, people that go to events like that, they need something, you've got to have the sparkle to draw them in. And once you have the sparkle and you get them in the booth, then you can start pointing out the books, and then you can start talking them up and engaging. But you have to have the thing that makes the people stop.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the big keys for me, was when she was messaging me about that, it wasn't just, we sold a lot of pins and a lot of t-shirts. We also outsold in terms of books. It really did work to bring people in on books. And so that has now become part of the whole marketing strategy of the company is, hey, we're trying to get the word out about these books, but this merch draws people in.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, tell about your design.
For example,
because folks who are listening to the podcast can't see this, so we have to describe it.
So this one I'm really excited about. This is my own particular. I used to have a sticker on my car that had this, and it got so many compliments, and I feel like this kind of describes entirely who I am as a person.
So folks who are listening to what this is a t-shirt that Chrys is wearing right now that says GADHD with rainbow lettering, and then has a squirrel that is a brown squirrel, but the squirrel's tail is this wild rainbow. And so this was a design that Chrys made, and I did a little bit of tweaking on the colors just to make it pop a little more. So we collaborate on all these designs, and then Chrys, as merchandising director, is putting them up on the website, and we should tell everybody about the plan for the store.
We should. So normally, I'm not allowed to buy everything that we list on the store. I don't have to have all of the shirts and all of the mugs and all of the bags. I tried to convince Ben that I did as marketing, but this one I was so excited about. So this one we just put up on our current Not a Pipe store, but I had to get a copy for myself as quickly as possible, and I'm really excited I was able to get it here before the show so I could wear it on the show, because I love it so much. It's bright and colorful, and it's squirrels, and my brain is normally full of 8,000 squirrels all playing different instruments, so it's fun for me. So we currently have our Not a Pipe merchandise store with both the books and the merchandise run through Square.
Right.
And so as I'm going through and creating these new designs, Ben and I got to talking because he's kind of running through and teaching me how to upload the new designs to the store so that I can create them, and then we can actually, hopefully sell them. But as some of you listeners may know, Ben and I recently moved to Spain. We've been here for about 4 months. And so one of the things that I kind of figured out through that process is that the current company that we go through that prints and ships out our shirts and our bags and our coffee mugs and stuff like that, they only ship within the U.S. And so something that I've noticed, because I spend most of my time on TikTok, is that most of the viewers that I'm getting are being targeted by TikTok from my area. So I'm getting a lot of EU and UK and Spain viewers. And so I don't want to be like, look at this really cool shirt and here's where you could buy it. Please buy a bunch of them so I don't have to find a job. But then, if you're living in the UK and you see it and you're like, I want that, you go to the website and you're not going to want to pay $30 for shipping. So that has become, I have unintentionally created a very large project for myself. So bear in mind, this is a work in progress. I am currently creating a brand new Shopify website for our sales, and I am moving all of our merchandise designs from Printify to Printly.
Printful.
So
these companies are not creative. This is so frustrating. Our website is through Squarespace. Our current store is through Square. So right away, that's confusing. And then the company that does the designs for us and does all that distribution right now is Printful. And the one that is much better for the European market, really the global market, Australia, Asia, they're much better on that, is printify.
Yes.
So all these conversations, we're stumbling over ourselves saying, okay, so we're going to move this thing from Square, on Squarespace, we're going to connect, instead of connecting to Square, we're going to connect to Shopify, and we're going to connect our Shopify to Printify instead of Printful. I mean, you can imagine, this is just,
Or if you're me, it's we're going to move everything over from Square to Spotify.
And then I have to say, not Spotify.
No,
we're
not
not going to
Spotify.
put our merch on Spotify. That would be very confusing.
So part of that process means that I have to recreate the listings for all of our 46 books.
60, let's see, so it's 53 that are still in print?
Yeah, books.
53 books.
Well, and it's more than that because it's also the duologies that there's a bundle that comes together.
You can buy the trilogy, you can buy the duology together, so all those have listings, and everyone that is in paperback has the paperback or the hardcover.
Yeah.
So it is... and the quantity of information, because on the back end you can't see this when you're on the website, but we've got to plug in the cost,
the weight,
and then everything is at a discount. We want everything on our store to be cheaper than you could buy it elsewhere, so that people are drawn to the store. So everything's 25% off this summer. I don't know if we'll be able to maintain a 25% discount all year round, but we'll be able to do lots of discounts on the store. So that is a ton of work you have given yourself.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm getting started. I'm making slow progress, but as somebody who is neurodivergent and I have a limited number of spoons in my drawer, I have to set tasks for myself that are actually manageable, so I don't feel defeated before I do it. So I'm giving myself, this is how many per day that you have to do, or I'll spend 2 hours doing that on the spreadsheet and in the websites and the copy and paste, and then I'll move over and work on a design.
Is that a phrase that people use?
Spoons?
Limited number of spoons in the drawer?
Yeah, absolutely. I am 100% a spoonie.
That is also...
Are you not familiar with the spoonie
I had not
term?
heard that phrase, but it does not surprise me because it's literal for us, and that's not entirely your fault. Often many of our spoons end up in Frankie's room when Noah still lived in the house. The one drawer that was often totally out of everything was spoons. We didn't have enough spoons. So when you said that, I was like, is that just us, or is that really your brain?
I swear, as a child, when my kid was little, they would. I think they were eating the spoons because I would buy 8 packs of spoons, and 2 months later they would all be gone.
Where are the spoons?
But no, spoonie. Spoons is a term that you use that. People with chronic disabilities use.
I was going to say there's a specific condition.
A specific
right?
not condition. It's disability.
Oh, anybody who has
in
chronic.
General.
I did not.
Yeah,
know
anybody
that
has a chronic disorder or disability, because we only have as much either mental or physical ability during a day to complete individual tasks. So each task is going to take its own spoon.
I have never heard this. See, I'm learning too.
Because I only have a limited number of spoons, I have to divide this by, here's shirt designings, which gives me a bunch of dopamine because it's fun, and then here's this really repetitive, boring task of copying and pasting. So it's a project, but the thing I'm really excited about, one of the things I'm most excited about and is kind of pushing me forward in getting this website and getting everything ported over and up and going, is that on Printful, which we currently use, you have to create each product individually. So we'll have a new design, and you have to create the listing to put it on a t-shirt that you can then pick the size and color. But then you have to create an entirely new listing to put it on a hoodie or a tank top or a beanie or a tote bag or a coffee mug. You have to create each of those listings individually. Moving them over to a new supplier allows me to put them on multiple objects without creating brand new listings for each thing. So
Printify just makes it much easier to go, put that in a mug, put that on a...
So that we can offer the same designs and the designs that we already have on multiple things.
So keep an eye out for that. I mean, it's not going to be up until
it's a couple of months.
Late September maybe, but there will be, we'll let folks know when the new merch store is going. And of course, viewers of this show, there's always a discount in the show notes, so you will be some of the first to be able to go check out that store. And if you're going, I'm not into t-shirts, now there will be lots more options. So that's going to be cool.
And if you follow either NotAPipePublishing or Ben himself or me on any of our social media, and I think Ben's going to put my social medias in the show notes.
Be in the show notes.
As I get designs up, we'll be posting about those designs.
Right.
So, and then obviously, of course, we'll make an announcement when the new store is up and running. But I'm really excited to be able to offer more, like a wider range of products
Our executive
to a
director
larger audience
merchandising
of people.
has been scolding me because I don't make enough videos of kind of the behind the scenes. I'm trying to do a better job of that. So yes, you will see more about here's what we're putting up and letting folks know how this was made. Here it is. This is the thought process that went behind it, and now it's available. So we'll do a better job of that. But there's a lot.
I don't scold.
You just encouraged me to make some behind the scenes.
Yes, I lovingly, repeatedly encourage. I don't scold and I don't nag. No. I lovingly encourage.
Yes. Those videos have been helpful to people. I can see the process that goes into making this design.
Yeah.
And it's nice, what we call in the business A/B testing. We can say, do you like this one or this one? And if folks are saying we really favor this design, okay, that's the one that'll be up. And if it's about even, maybe we put them both up.
And that has been a challenge because I don't know if you know this about me. This might be brand new information for you. I don't like to lose.
I had no idea.
No, I keep it hidden really well.
Yeah.
But sometimes I will have a design, and then Ben will have an alternate opinion. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not right.
Yeah.
But it's an alternate opinion about that design, and that has been something that we have had to learn how to compromise on that.
Well, or not. I mean, that's the nice thing about the A/B testing is I can say, well, what if it had this? And she could say, I don't like that element, and we can toss them both up there. And if people say, we really like this one, and we very intentionally don't say whose is whose,
they're all wrong.
Then I can say the majority of prospective customers prefer this design, not that prefer my design.
It doesn't count when you vote on it too, though.
I do vote. I do try and put an elbow on the scale. Mm-hmm. I totally do. Yeah.
I know. This one was all me, though.
That was all you.
This one was
all
me.
You. Yep. And even the tweaks that you were like, do this to it, which did make it better. Those
I had to add some outlines, and I'm still, because I'm still learning, I'm very new in the creating my own stuff, because I see these stickers, or I see tote bags, or I see shirts, or like I hear a phrase online, and I'm like, I really want to wear that on a shirt, but I can't buy it anywhere. And then I realized I've been playing around with a couple of different websites and apps to create things. And I'm like, wait, now I can make them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I still haven't gotten the hang of adding. Ben went in and put all the rainbow colors because I haven't gotten the hang of the colors yet.
Yep.
I'm like a child scribbling like a toddler.
Well, and learning these tools is fun.
Stay in the lines.
A lot of this stuff I've learned.
I can't color straight.
I can't
do anything straight.
I've learned doing book covers, and even now our book covers are improving. And of course, we hire artists to do the art a lot of the time because they're better, more talented, better than I am. But we really focus on our art should be by human beings.
Yeah.
We don't do AI stuff. And then I have learned how to do kind of the lettering. And if you look back through our covers, you'll see, we've dramatically improved in kind of making that pop and making that clear, and just learning little
it's a learning
tips.
Process.
Don't change fonts multiple times in the same space. It's gross for people's eyes. So how to do just enough drop shadow, but not too much drop shadow, so that it pops. So that is something that I'm learning about, and that's then contributed to the.
But it's also really fun when I can do something on one of my programs that you can't do on your programs. We've discovered
letters
you cannot curve the letters around.
I can 3Dify and I can shape, but the program
so he had
makes it better.
A logo for a little project we're working on that he needed my help with, which was fun for me.
Help.
And I was like, I can do that.
Yeah. So we have lots.
We take all the little wins. We are big fans of celebrating the little wins.
A big believer in celebrate each step. I've ranted about this. I don't know if I've ever gone off about it on this show, but I've talked about it in a couple of different TikTok videos. If you work in an office, and let's say your office has 50 employees, right? Not necessarily a huge business, or the school I used to work in where there were 100 people, right? So there are 100 people on staff. That means that if there are 50 weeks in the year minus a couple of weeks off, right, there's going to be cake in the break room twice a week, right? Because it's somebody's birthday and somebody's having a baby and but just birthdays alone, you would have cake twice a week on average, right? When you work in a company of 2, right, you have to remind yourself, you deserve cake, you deserve a dinner out, you deserve a celebration. And I think a lot of times creatives, folks who are working, self-employed, whatever, don't celebrate very often because they're going, oh, I'm gonna wait for the next quarter. Oh, and this is especially true for authors, because authors, at every stage, you're going, I don't know if this is yet a success. And I don't know that there's ever really... I have never achieved the level of success where I would go, oh, I just won the Pulitzer, right? So you finished the manuscript. Yeah. But it's just a manuscript. Yep. And then you've finished you've sent the manuscript out to your editor, just to your editor. It needs, and then you get the edits back, and it's a whole bunch of stuff saying you've got to make all these changes, right? And so I encourage the authors that I work with, celebrate all those, even if it feels like, oh, this isn't, you made those edits. Great, you completed the edits on your novel. That's a huge accomplishment. Go out and celebrate, right? Because if it took you 2 weeks, you're still not getting as much cake as you'd get in the office, right? So think about it in that way. How often should you be celebrating? Well, the people who do, office work shouldn't be celebrating more than you. You write novels. Yep. So
celebrate the little wins.
Find those celebrations. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've been meaning to ask you, in this era of rising fascism, when we talked about this on the show a lot, last time I had you on, we had just moved here to Spain, and we had a lot of talking about the kind of rationale for why we were moving to Spain. But one of the reasons we discussed is we wanted to be in a place where we could use our voices, right? Where we could do that without going, oh, and we're going to get tossed into alligator Alcatraz for speaking out. So not because we're going, oh, we're so afraid of Trump. We're going because the work of speaking out needs to continue, right? And so how can we be in a place where we can continue to do that? So what is something that a way that, besides the t-shirt designs, what is another way that you are speaking out and using your voice from here in Barcelona?
Well, I mean, from here, we put out our Antifa Lit Journal Volume 1, which was really exciting, and it was my first official publishing credit. Yeah. Is that?
Yep, yeah, that's your first credit.
So I wrote the foreword for it, which kind of came about as a challenge. Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite books, and we were going through the first volume, trying to figure out before we really knew how many submissions and how many stories were going to be in it, trying to figure out if we were going to need to fill some space with some older works of literature.
Considered putting in some public domain stuff to kind of add it.
And
we ended up not having to do that because we got so many wonderful submissions.
But I had made a comment about I think it was Jane Eyre.
I think it was Jane Eyre, not Pride and Prejudice.
And Ben was like, I don't think that really fits with it. And I don't know if this is a thing you know about me. But I don't like to be told I can't do something.
Well, I think the implication is that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And, as we've established, I'm hearing for the very first time
on
this
brand
show
new information
that she does not like to be told that she's wrong. And
so I took it as a personal challenge, which is how I wrote the introductory
how to
justify
to the book. Using quotes from people who were living very posh lifestyles in the 1800s. I don't think of them as anti-fascists by any means. Thing is, there was no fascism, but she went through and found quotes that were about kind of being yourself and standing up to people who were trying to say you don't get to be yourself. And so she wrote this intro where she plugged in some of those quotes.
I used some of those people and some of those book characters and some of those authors that helped shape who I am.
Right.
That helped shape my own ability to speak out.
Right.
So it wasn't just out of
and then the framing
pettiness.
Of the book is this is your kind of lens by which you are choosing the pieces.
Yeah. So we did that one. I was really excited about that one.
Worth reading. Check out that intro to Antifa Lit Journal.
Yes. And now we're getting ready for Volume 2. We did a Kickstarter for Volume 2. I was so happy that it got funded.
It funded thanks to all the people who did that. We are in the process of sending out your backer rewards. My goal is to have that done by tomorrow.
But yeah, so we're preparing to read submissions for Volume 2, so I'm really excited about that. And if you listeners or viewers are interested in having any of your works in Volume 2, we are still open to submissions for that.
Yeah, we're early in that process. Please,
very early in that.
Somebody was writing to me the other day saying, how long do I have? Well, if our goal is to have it out by November. Normally with a novel, I like to have the entire interior file done, at least 6 months before we're starting to pick that release date. With a journal, it's way more compressed.
Yeah.
And so, if you can get it to me by aim for the end of August, early September, that gives some folks out there who write short fiction, or poetry, a little bit of time. But if you're hearing this, write that anti-fascist poem.
Well, and I'm really excited to see if because we don't know what the title of the second one is going to be. But reading the submissions for the first one of the stories was one of them was a story titled "What If We Kissed While Sinking a Billionaire's Yacht?" And as soon as I looked at that title, I turned to Ben and I was like, "This has to be the title of the book." Yep. So I'm really excited to see if we get a submission.
Yeah,
that
it
is
might
that
not be
again.
The title of your story. It might be a line in a poem. It might be a line in and that will then be the title.
So I'm excited to see if we get.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm really excited for that.
We talked about doing a theme in the kind of call for submissions, and we've got a couple of ideas. It will come out in November, and so I thought maybe winter of our discontent, and then some folks are kind of feeling that tension between so much of what is going on is so absurd that you want to laugh, which is legitimate, right? We should be able to go, this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But as soon as you laugh, somebody goes, you're laughing in the midst of a genocide in Gaza. And they're right too. Yeah. And so how do we hold those things in tension? Yeah. And so we thought about maybe comedy and tragedy as a theme. Mm. So we'll see, but it very well could be we decided, no, let's hold off and wait until we've got, at least a handful of the submissions. We've got some. And we could say, okay, now we're seeing a theme come from the authors themselves. And then if we decide on a theme,
or if there's no theme at all, there's really not a theme to the first one outside of...
It's about, standing up to fascism, right? And that still coheres very well. If you read that journal, you will go, oh yeah, I can see why these are together. Yeah. The one thing that was really interesting to me about them is they are... And I don't say this in any kind of disparaging way, but you look at the different styles, and some folks went with, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm criticizing some of the authors and not others, but kind of, what is traditionally considered kind of high and low, kind of, the kind of poetry that you'd find more in academia versus the kind of poetry you'd find more on, what some people will call Instagram poetry, which sounds disparaging, but that's actually really appropriate, I think, for this kind of anthology. We should have both. This shouldn't just be, because it's a literary anthology, it needs to only appeal to college professors. But at the same time, it's wonderful to see that in there as well, to see everyone is pushing back against fascism in their way. And so we want to have... Well, I don't want to say highbrow and lowbrow, but we want to have a mix of styles in the anthology itself. Yeah.
Well, and one of my favorite stories is a couple of whales sinking.
Yeah, see, and that one I think of as very literary. That really? Story is, oh gosh, that story, I would say is very, you've got, these shifting voices, and we're actually getting scenes with the whales and the way the whales communicate. It's, that story seems to me very, very literary. And then, there's another one in there that's, screams Margaret Atwood and is very literary, right? And then you have some that are funny in a way that is, where the satire is more on the nose. Mm-hmm. And as we were going through and reading them, I was like, oh, do we want to do this mix? And then we were like, that's good. Yeah. There should be, on the nose. This is ridiculous what's going on. There's a spec fic piece that's in this future, what if we've learned the lessons? Yeah. And so when somebody tries to rise up, they've figured out a way to not let that absurdity exist
What happened
anymore.
if we lived
And
in a
it's
world
just
in
kind
which
of-
we actually taught history and learned
Right,
from it?
right. And that story works really well, too, and is not,
Yeah.
that kind of, highbrow literary, but it is, it's well written.
Yeah.
But I think it works really well. So I think having that mix is really good.
Yeah.
So
I'm really
yeah.
excited to see the next batch of submissions.
Yeah. So I often ask the authors that I have on how, when we're confronted with what the right-wing propaganda machine is doing, which is what they call flooding the zone, overwhelming us with stories. And so as soon as you're trying to say, wait a second, I don't like that the President of the United States is on a list of pedophiles. Yeah. Oh, here's a distraction, here's a distraction, here's a distraction. And it gets kind of overwhelming, right? And so taking the time to say, it's not that all of these other stories are unimportant, but what is something that you think people should be paying attention to right now that kind of gets lost?
And that's Trump's specialty, is overwhelm them with as much both horror and absurdity as possible so nobody can pay attention to the bigger thing.
Yeah, well,
and there's so many of the bigger...
How do you fact check when it's...
Yeah.
This would be a scandal that this politician is caught in a lie, except that by the time you've written the article about the lie, there's 5 more lies.
Yeah. And it's so hard because, part of it is there are so many big things happening right now that it feels like you have to focus on those big things. There's also a lot of people focused on those big things. And it is also okay to kind of pay attention to the small, not necessarily smaller things, but for me, it's the things that hit more personally, more close to home for myself.
Well, and I would also say keeping an eye on those things is really important because otherwise they can slip in and become, well, that's now the new status quo. We'll accept this small change that they made because we're so focused on this horror. Well, yeah, but we don't want a world where that little thing has become normalized and acceptable.
Well, and for me, because I am neurodivergent, I am queer, I have a chronic disability, and I have struggled with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, all of those. It's put me in a position where when you're looking at groups that are more what's the word? Marginalized groups. Those things are those small things that he tends to slide in under. That's where it starts. It starts with trans people, and it starts with a very small step, a very small, what is seemingly very small.
Yep.
We're going to start with a very small, seemingly bathroom laws,
right.
And then it expands and expands and expands, and next thing you know, gay marriage has been criminalized within the U.S., or you start with deportations of one group that it's just the criminals, and then the next thing you know, we've built a detainment facility, and we have a member of Trump's government saying maybe we should build a new not crematorium, but what's the word? Incinerator next to where we built the new containment facility, just because it's convenient. So it's these little steps. And so for me personally, there are 2 items that have come out recently that
I do want to say the reason, and I may have mentioned this before, but this is worth reminding yourself continuously. The reason that an authoritarian regime goes after very, very small groups, trans folks are 1% of the population, is not just because they can, right? It's not just it's because they want to get you involved.
Yeah.
If they can get you to go, oh yeah, I have a friend who, in many ways is progressive, and yet was going, but my daughter plays, college sports, and I don't want her. I've bought into this lie.
Yeah.
It is a lie that this is going to, in some way, adversely affect her. And so the appeal is made to this broader group. And I had to say to my friend, do you realize this means you're saying it would be okay for somebody to check your daughter's genitalia? Yep. And then he was like, oh, wait, now I'm uncomfortable with it. But he hadn't thought it through in that way. He was just going, I am being a good father and looking out for my family's interest, right? And the reason they go after this tiny group is once somebody like my friend has said, okay, I am at least in league with this group on this one issue, it's then much easier because that person's saying, I have a hard time admitting I was wrong and admitting that I teamed up with this nefarious force. And so when they go after then, queer people in general, well, I already participated. I was already okay with them in this way. Yeah. I guess I'm willing to throw stones at a bigger group. And this is absolutely what happened with, we're on YouTube, we're not on TikTok, but, with the Yahtzees, as folks say, to get around the where first you go after trans folks and you rope in folks who are, communists, who are Jewish. And you say, see, you participated in this oppression. Now, when we go after communists, when we go after Jews, when we go after more moderate liberals, you were engaged in it. Yeah. So you're not going to speak out forcefully, or at least not in advance, until we're knocking on your door. And then it's too late.
Everybody has an acceptable level of harm. There is for me, a good real world example of that is I won't watch any movie, any project that has Tom Cruise involved, because the amount of harm that he does from his position. Right. But then where do you draw the line?
If folks don't know about that, there are some movies you should watch, some documentaries you should see.
But then where do you draw the line?
Right. Then do you
Chris Pratt?
Yeah, the example you always go to is Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt who also is engaged with some stuff that is problematic. Yeah. And do you?
But
where do you draw that line?
I'll still watch MCU movies. Guardians is granted not my favorite, but there's a line. So we all have this inevitable hypocrisy within ourselves.
Quantity of hypocrisy we're willing to bear.
Yes. And so when you do that by stages, somebody says, well, they're harming maybe this people, but it doesn't affect me, or doesn't affect anybody I know, or it's a lower level. Or when we're talking about deportations, well, they're criminals. Yeah, except now he's deporting American citizens because they're not stopping to take the time to look at IDs. Yeah. Which is...
And I've been really open about one of the things that I feel incredibly guilty about in terms of my hypocrisy is I didn't speak out forcefully about what is happening in Gaza because I made this mental calculation where I said, okay, if we can just get the people who want to eradicate this group of human beings out of power, then maybe we can avoid essentially 2 genocides, because this other group wants to eradicate groups of people in my country. And so I'm not going to speak out on behalf of this other group of people right now, so that maybe, and I will always now carry the guilt of, why didn't I speak out for this group of people over here, because I was so worried about a genocide in my country. And partly I'm angry at a situation where I'm choosing 2 genocides or 1. Yeah. But also I'm angry at myself for tolerating 1 in an effort to prevent 2, right? That and so that's that hypocrisy that I chose to live with, and now I have to live with the guilt of that, right? And I think all of us need to get to a place where we can say, I can acknowledge that I participated. Every single person in the United States has participated in atrocities. When you pay sales tax because you buy a Snickers bar at the grocery store, you are funding the bullets into black men's backs, right? We all have engaged in horrors that we don't want to, and you have to say, rather than saying, oh, then I guess now I'm complicit, so I'll continue to be complicit, saying, I can acknowledge that I participated in something I did not want to participate in. What am I going to do now?
Yeah. Well, and we exist in a society in which we have to exist in the society. So things like taxes and actually being, a U.S. citizen and being complicit in those actions are, unavoidable and inevitable. When the society that you exist in is predicated on harming others, you are going to play a part in that harm. And for, everybody chooses how they cope with that and how they reconcile that themselves. And for me, it's trying to do good with the people and the groups that I can, with my limited, with the privilege that I do have.
And one of the points that has been pointed out by Black scholars predominantly is that one of the ways that oppressive systems work often is to say, rather than challenging oppressive systems, you should kind of double down on the ways you personally were oppressed. So you say, it's fine for me to participate in stealing land from Native Americans because I am queer and I am not allowed to get married.
Yeah.
It's fine for me to participate in segregation because I am Native American and my land was stolen, right?
Yeah.
And so the concept is that these are intersectional systems of oppression, and recognizing people can be attacked in multiple ways, and the only way to fight back against systemic oppression is for folks to say, rather than playing oppression Olympics, I am going to side with people who are different from me and say your oppression matters to me as much or more than my own oppression, right? And so rather than I don't have to engage because I deal with this or that, to say, no, I need to engage because you deal with this thing that is different from me and I'm perpetuating it. Yeah. I participate in your oppression even though I suffer a different kind of oppression. Yeah. So that, and so I wanted to ask you about specifically some of the stuff we've heard about the ways this administration wants to target people who are neurodivergent or people who have mental health issues.
And that's we got off a little bit on a tangent, which is what happens with me.
I think that's exactly what I wanted to get to, because you've got a good ear for that. Like when you hear about these things, you're like, watch out. And sometimes I miss them. So
and part of that is kind of an inevitable side effect of growing up as a neurodivergent child. Is you become hyper aware. You are forced to become hyper aware of any potential dangers around you. Particularly if you were like me and you also grew up with an emotionally abusive family member, non-diagnosed,
more than one,
non-diagnosed, but exhibited a lot of traits of narcissistic personality disorder. So you become hyper aware of what may be dangerous around you that other people won't notice, which is, it can come in good, it can come in handy. It can also create somebody who is always prepared for danger, which is an entirely different therapy. But two things have come out recently, and they are both things that I saw coming, and they are both things that I mentioned to Ben when we were talking about leaving the U.S. right after the election. And I would just like to point out, they were also both things that Ben said that you thought, if that happens, it's going to be like 3 years. It's going to be further down the road, or faster. That's so aggressive he won't do that. And I don't like to say I told you so because it's not really my style. However,
isn't it?
So there are two particular pieces of news that have me that currently have me a little bit terrified. Trump's announcement a few days ago that would allow for the institutionalization of neurodivergent people and people suffering from mental health disorders.
And it starts off being really focused on people who are houseless.
Yes.
But once you open that door, right?
Well, there's a time in U.S. history where people. One of the things I hate is, and this is my own personal soapbox, is the people that say, "Well, I grew up in the '60s and we didn't have autistic kids. I grew up in the '60s or the '70s and we didn't have kids with ADHD. So this must be a brand new thing that you're making up because it didn't exist." No. Do you know what happened to the autistic family member that you had? Or do you know what happened to the second cousin that you had that was born with, Down syndrome? They were institutionalized, and the rest of their family was told they died. The Queen, the British royal family did that to two of their family members. They locked them in an institution and told everybody else that they were dead. That's what we did. That is a part of the United States history that we've decided we want to bury under the rug because it doesn't make us sound very good, much like a lot of other American history. We are now in how many months has it been since Inauguration Day? 5 months, maybe?
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months? Within 6 months, we are now back to, hey, how about if we forcibly institutionalize And this is coming on top of, I had originally said when RFK Jr. made his comment about, I think we should round up all the people with ADHD and put them in camps and just feed them organically, and that will cure it, which is absolutely absurd, because do you know what happens when you round up a bunch of people with ADHD and you put them all in like a big summer camp together? We're all going to line up and build a big giant daisy chain. Like, that's what's going to happen. Nobody's going to be like farming and learning to churn butter and weaving our own clothes. Absolutely not.
Actually, what I think would happen is everybody would be interested in learning to churn butter.
Nobody would actually do it.
Churn the butter. They would collect the hobbies. They would learn how to make them all. Each one super excited about learning.
I hate when people ask me what my hobby is, until somebody who was also neurodivergent said, I have found the perfect answer to that. So when people ask me what my hobby is collecting hobbies. My problem is I will see somebody like, I've tried to learn to crochet like 10 different times, because I'll see like a TikTok video and somebody's like, look, I crocheted that. And I'm like, that's awesome. I want to be able to do that. So I'll go and spend like $200 on like crochet material. And then like I will try it once and be like, this is a lot harder than I thought. I was supposed to be immediately good at this. I'm going to tuck this away into my like supply closet of shame.
I'm picturing the farm that is run entirely by folks with ADHD, and it's like you get a few rows that were created during that period of hyperfixation, and they were all planted, but they're unpicked. Yeah. They grew, and then we're totally forgotten.
And it also depends on the type of
rows.
ADHD.
Yeah, then you get a whole bunch of other rows where they're not even the same product consistently growing. Somebody went, oh, it would be really fun to do a little bit of corn here, and then a little bit of soy here, and then some tomatoes. Like, it would just be, but some rows would be, entirely perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And then the person gave up on them. That would be a bonkers farm to see from the air.
There's 10 beds in like a cabin, and 9 of those beds are just piled high with everybody's like clean clothes on the very end of the bed, so you can still sleep next to them. And then there's the one bed which is like military made, where you get bounce quarters off of it. That's what, but nothing would actually like happen. Y'all would be able to like pretend that neurodivergent and homeless people and people with mental health issues didn't exist, which is the goal of the Trump administration.
Right. Well, and it's also important to remember that laws against what they called vagrancy or loitering were pretext for the asterisk in the 13th Amendment. So when the 13th Amendment was passed, the radical Republicans, these were the folks who were, the most progressive of progressive post-Civil War, they really wanted to end slavery. They wanted, black people in the Senate and in Congress, and we gave up on that. And the Confederacy essentially lost the battle and won the war. Yeah. And one of the ways that compromise was made was to say, okay, slavery is illegal unless the person has broken the law. Yeah. And then prisoners, sure, you can make them slaves. Yeah. Well, that's a giant loophole, right? Yeah. And so then you say... Because
guess what? The government can make anything illegal.
Exactly. And so then you make loitering illegal. Loitering literally means existing. Like anybody can go.
Loitering means existing without paying for your right to exist in that spot.
Without permission to be in that place from the powers that be, right? Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested for loitering, right? And so that is, when they start saying we want to be able to forcibly institutionalize people for vagrancy, for loitering, for houselessness, this is a doorway to say we can institutionalize anyone, because who gets to decide who's loitering? You were existing in the wrong place.
The man with worms in his brain wants to lock all the people with squirrels in their brains up. Mm-hmm. Like it's a terrible idea, but it's terrifying.
And he wants to go after people who abuse drugs, but he has a history of using heroin.
Yeah, so that's just but the other one that has come in the news just recently was Trump's announcement, his executive order announcing that he was going to consider the rights to strip citizenship from American citizens who were part of any what he deems as dangerous organizations, including by, like, actually naming it Antifa. And the moment I read that, I went to Ben and I said, hypothetically speaking, although maybe not hypothetically soon, what happens if an American citizen with an American passport is living in a foreign country and they are stripped of their citizenship from America? Because I just published a book with my name on the cover of it that says Antifa Lit Journal.
Yeah. And
so
those of you who are watching this know, Antifa is not an organization.
No.
Antifa is an ideology, an anti-fascist,
yeah,
admittedly reactionary ideology. We reject fascism, right?
Yeah.
It's not an organization. There's no membership, right? There's no membership card. Nobody pays us, despite I saw a great, really interesting TikTok video about this, where one of the things we used to hear a lot when we were standing out on the street corners with Black Lives Matter signs, people would yell at us that we were being paid protesters.
Yeah, we're all funded by George Soros.
George Soros was the anti-Semitic kind of undertone of
where is my check?
Theory. But this person was pointing out that comes from a mental framework folks could not possibly believe, could not understand that we would be doing it without getting paid.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you come from a framework of, I only look out for myself, and I see somebody out on a street corner and they're holding a Black Lives Matter sign, if your framework is, I would only do things for me, they must only be doing that for them.
Yeah.
So who is paying them to do that? Because you can't wrap your head around, no, somebody's standing out there because they actually care about their neighbors.
Well,
right?
and that also ties in perfectly with we live in a capitalistic society. This idea that if you do art, if you paint, if you crochet, if you craft, if you do, you make jewelry, you do whatever, you have to somehow monetize it.
Monetize.
You
And
can't
so this
just
idea
do
of
it because
monetizing
it's
your
fun.
protest.
Like, right? I enjoyed making the shirts. It's fun for me. It would be a nice bonus if we sold them.
Right.
That would
so
be
that we
awesome.
can make more art. I mean, not so
But,
that,
like,
I do think being a billionaire is inherently unethical. I do not ever want to be a billionaire. It would be great to have the time to just make art.
If I was going to be a billionaire, I would be a Dolly Parton billionaire.
Not a billionaire. Give it
not
away.
a billionaire.
Give it away. Yep. That's the only ethical way to be a billionaire is to not be a billionaire anymore.
Like why? Why would, if you had that amount of money, why would you choose J.K. Rowling to harm people instead of help people? Yep. I don't understand that. Like, if I won the lottery and I won like $1 billion, I wouldn't tell anybody because I really like the fact that my family doesn't talk to me anymore. But like, you would know. You'd be like, oh, where's Crystal? Oh, she's living on a private island surrounded by every single abandoned dog and cat that exists in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I would hire
and trying to get.
I would hire like 1 million people just to go around and gather every stray animal. Yeah,
if I were
and
a billionaire,
fly them to my island.
Day-to-day job, my day job would be getting poor. How do I get rid of this? Because it is, we can all see this in when it is down to our wealth level, we could see it. If you had a sandwich and you saw someone, a child was saying, I am starving.
Yeah.
And you went, too bad, I need 2 sandwiches.
Yeah.
We can also go, oh, that's clearly unethical, right? But there's this level where we get to where we go, oh, no, at that point, hoarding wealth suddenly becomes
and when people point
admirable.
out, but Jeff Bezos donates this month, he's literally that Jeff Bezos donates, like, if I earned $1,000 a month and I was donating $100, like, what was it? $1 a month is similar to what he is. What's that?
And
totally
offset by taxes.
Yeah, totally off top. That's why when I go through like a fast food restaurant or anything and they ask me if I would like to donate to, would you like to donate to this children's literacy or this whatever, my response is always no, because do you want to hear something that will ruin your day if you don't already know this? The company, when you go through McDonald's and they ask if you would like to donate your change to this organization, McDonald's has already made their donation as a tax write-off. They've already paid a set donation for that year. You are just paying McDonald's back for what they have already donated that they are then getting a tax write-off back for. So no, I always say no, and I don't care who looks at me and judges me like that at all. Totally unrelated, semi-related if I won the lottery. Which we don't play. What is that? Greek mythology, there's the island where men weren't allowed.
I don't know what that one's called because it's not Lesbos.
That's what my brain thought.
Right,
it was Lesbos, but what was it?
Is it?
It's not the one in Wonder Woman. That's not what I'm thinking of because that's a different.
Is it related to the term sapphic?
I don't know.
Might be.
I need somebody's help because I'm gonna have to
somebody
Google
right now knows it and is screaming it at their podcast.
Oh yeah, somebody is absolutely screaming it out loud. If I won the lottery, I would buy an island. I would buy 2 islands because I am an equal opportunity human being. I would buy 2 islands and they would be connected by a bridge, like a
I don't know where this dystopia is going.
Like a Heimdall bridge, right? One island, only women. One island is only men.
Only men island? Oh, that'd be terrible.
I wouldn't want to be there, but I also would want. I also can acknowledge that men generally as a group, as more than one, are terrible.
Yeah, but I think isolation makes it worse.
Well, yeah.
Men need to have more women friends. Need to be around.
But I'm not. I'm not talking about all the men.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the marginalized men, the men that need a safe place to go.
Yeah,
I still want to give them a safe place to go. I just don't want to have to spend any time with them. So maybe there's a third island where everybody can go intermingle. I think this idea needs to be thought
through more. Incel Island is not a good place. Let's not.
No, the good men.
Why would the good men wouldn't want to go to Incel Island?
That's valid. Listen.
There's a great book I'm going to recommend. Actually, I don't know if it's a great book. I read it in high school, and I believe I read it again in college. So this was a long time ago.
It might not have held up.
It might not hold up, but I remember loving it. And the title of the book is Meanwhile. And the premise of the book is that it's this post-apocalyptic, something terrible has happened, and the remaining survivors divided along gender lines. And so the women started reproducing through essentially virgin birth, and the men started reproducing through cloning. So all the men live in these bubble cities under the ocean, and they're all basically the same dude. And then the women are roaming the wastes on motorcycles, kind of Mad Max style, and then breeding in these facilities. And it's what happens when after 1,000 years, the first some men when their city collapses escape to the surface, and the first men meet women for the first time in 1,000 years or whatever. It's very funny. It's very fun. I wish I could remember the author's name off the top of my head, but
somebody out there has read this book and is also
it's just hard to find. This was like some paperback,
this was a
sci-fi
fever dream that didn't actually exist.
No, it totally did. I read it multiple times. It's very funny. There's some great passages in it that are, I would say, at least I thought at the time, deeply philosophical and really interesting about kind of the purpose of existence and the purposelessness sometimes of our choices. But yeah, Meanwhile, check it out. It's really interesting. But yeah, separating people by gender, bad idea.
So I just remembered that I have actually read Lord of the Flies, and I retract my previous statement. The island will be just for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, and all your dogs. You rescue
all the dogs. You can come too. Frankie can come too. Noah can come.
It's nice of you. Noah can totally come.
Noah can totally come. Noah is one of the men that I would allow in an elevator with me. Yeah, it's a limited number.
This is my son Noah. And Noah is so good and charismatic and kind. People just feel so comfortable around him that either he is the kindest person or he's a secret serial killer.
Noah is an absolute conundrum to me because here's a child that is not child anymore. He just had his 21st
grown man.
birthday.
He's 21 years old.
He is so annoyingly well adjusted with such an unfathomable lack of trauma that he should be
a jerk.
Yeah, he should be absolutely insufferable. But he's the coolest kid ever.
Yeah, I mean it is proof of the surprising fact that if you remove a lot of trauma, a person doesn't become worse. Yeah, trauma does not make you better, right?
Trauma does not make you stronger.
Right. And so here's this young man who has, will tell you by his own account, he has not had a lot of childhood trauma. Yeah. And it didn't make him into an awful human.
It should be really annoying. Like, I really want to be annoyed by him just for all of those factors, but he's too cool.
Yeah, he really is. He's wonderful.
Yeah, he really, it's...
Parenting win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Let's. I do want to give you a chance to to give some connections for folks. So
yeah, we kind of got off.
No, that's good.
Off track.
What is an announcement about something that's coming up in your kind of career?
Well, I mean, we've already talked about the new website and the new merchandise. Really, when you say in my career, because I owned a Lego store before we moved, and my career currently is part-time, executive merchandising director, and also trying to find a job in Spain.
You did find a job.
I did find a job. I did find. I'm very excited. I celebrate the small things. I did. I found a part-time job teaching English, which is exciting. But I'm really hoping that the new website and the merch and the social media work that we're putting in starts to pay off, and it becomes NotAPipe actually becomes a financially supporting career for both of us.
Right.
And so on that note, not only with the new store and all of that stuff, we are going to be looking at doing some giveaways online. I'm not sure what form that will take. I'm not sure what they will be. But yeah, we'll be doing some good giveaways.
I'm excited. Yeah, I know of some. Yeah. We have some ideas about some things we're going to be giving away soon. So yeah, you'll want to be following NotAPipe on social media, and that I think will be a lot of fun for folks. So we've been talking about all this, very heavy stuff that we deal with, and also, the stress of making the company viable. That's just strenuous.
Yeah.
So when you have been trying to find distractions from all of this, what has been a distraction that's been fun in the last, couple weeks?
It's the perk of ADHD. Finding distractions kind of comes naturally to me. But I am moving to Spain has given me a chance to kind of reinvent myself. And so I've always been a very, basic makeup kind of person. I've been wearing the same kind of makeup since I was in high school. So my daughter Frankie has been teaching me how to apply eyeshadow. So I've been working on that. Today I went with, I don't know if the viewers can see it because I have my glasses on, but I went with pink today because I felt like it. I found myself, once upon a time, I wanted to paint my nails like a bright pink, and I was like, I'm not a pink person. I can't do that. And then I realized I wanted to do it, therefore I am a pink person and I can do that. So moving to Spain has kind of been that for me. I've kind of decided I'm going to do what makes me happy. I'm going to, wear the dresses that I would not normally have worn before we move. I'm going to do the makeup, have fun with it. I'm trying new foods, spicy foods.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Guacamole, which I always swore I didn't like guacamole. I ate something, a super spicy
tikka masala
last night, and it was delicious. So I'm trying new foods. We're exploring new clubs. I'm not like an out, nightlife kind of person, but we're trying all of these things. And so I've kind of decided, everything is a little scary and a little unpredictable right now. And so often we find ourselves kind of burrowing into the safety of the identity that we were told, like who we were told we were supposed to be as a child. We kind of burrow into the safety of that. So that's my distraction right now is learning how to actually be who I am, who I want to be. And so that is my distraction. I'm trying to find every tiny little possible way I can to find joy, and to be comfortable, in my own identity, in my own skin, which is something that I'm, 40 some odd years old. And it's something that I'm just now really kind of learning and embracing how to do.
And for the record, she says 40 some odd because she doesn't know.
I don't remember.
I had the same thing. I realized at one point I had been telling people I was a year older than I was for a year because I miscalculated my own age. When you're in my case, late 40s, it is very easy to forget because the years don't really matter late 40s.
For me, it was the first year of COVID because I had a birthday in 2020.
This theory, yes.
I had a birthday in 2020, and I'd read this fascinating article about how we form memories, and we form memories the reason why children form so many memories is each day is a new experience, and as you get older, your days tend to repeat. So not as we form, how we calculate time, and so as you get older, your days tend to kind of fit this pattern and repeat. So they seem to go by slower. So when you're young, or is it the other way around? When you're young, every day lasts forever, and as you are older, it tends to go much faster because of the way we perceive time. And so because I had my 40th birthday in 2020, deep in the lockdown of COVID, it kind of made from then on that year became this really muddled, and then I started forgetting how old I was, and so I actually have to stop and think, what year is it?
Yeah, the thing I liked about your theory is if you cannot have a party, the birthday doesn't exist.
Oh yeah, no.
And so because it took place during COVID, she never turned 40.
Well, and it was my 40th birthday, so it was supposed to be the big one.
I shouldn't say during COVID, during lockdown. I know COVID has not ended.
Yeah,
but
so it was my
lockdown.
40th birthday, and they were opening the new Avengers campus at Disneyland, and so I had this big plan to go see the new Avengers campus at Disneyland for my 40th birthday. And then, everything kind of went, nah, and that did not happen.
Therefore, you didn't turn 40.
Therefore, I didn't turn 40. Therefore, I don't actually know how old I am.
Yep, legit. So I did want to get to ask you, first of all, this is important. Where can folks find you online?
Everywhere, all the usual places. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Ben has finally forcibly dragged me onto Mastodon, Threads, and Blue Sky. Yes, I know I called it Twitter. I absolutely refuse.
Yeah,
I absolutely refuse to bow down to that petty little man-child. But I am most active on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because of the ADHD. I am most active on TikTok. I like the illusion. I have what my therapist termed the fear of being perceived. So I don't like the idea that other people can see me. And so on Facebook and Instagram, it's a lot of family and old high school classmates and friends and people that actually know me in real life. And I don't like that. And so TikTok is great because I can pretend like everybody out there is also just a little squirrel sitting behind their phone, and it doesn't bother me as much.
That's interesting. Because I feel like because it's video, the people feel more real on TikTok.
No.
Because that's whereas on those the what are sometimes referred to as microblogging apps, I feel like I'm more in my wheelhouse because it's written.
No.
Right, and I'm more comfortable in written form than I am on video right now or podcast. If I could write this to you, I don't know, in the form of a book and have you read that would be more comfortable for me. Read my books. I'm better on the page than I am.
But also, TikTok is populated with more people that are weird like me.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
It's a lot of weird people.
I think you're going to love Threads.
Well, that's my algorithm. It's a lot of weird people.
You're going to love Blue Sky. Blue Sky's the weirdos.
But I am on all of those platforms. I've just recently spent the time to change all of my usernames to Chrys Gorman. So I'm on all of those.
Check Chrys Gorman.
Don't though.
Yeah, do. What are you looking forward to reading coming up?
Looking forward to reading coming up, or just read?
Coming up in the future. So I really want the show to not be homework. So I always ask folks, what are you looking forward to reading so that they don't feel like they have to go, oh no, I need to read 3 books before I'm on the show. No. What are you looking forward to reading?
No, that's fair. Well, yeah, except you just robbed me of the ability to plug your 3rd book in your trilogy. Because I've already read it. You
can mention it.
It's very good. I will mention that if you are a fan of lesbian vampires or lesbian vampire librarians or... a skeleton that he might actually be my new favorite character in the book.
He's really
which
adorable.
Feels really like a betrayal to Belle.
Yeah, Belle was your favorite.
Belle is my favorite. She is my favorite lesbian vampire. I'm a little in love with her, which is definitely not awkward. Anyway, I plugged that book. I picked up. There's an English bookstore called Backstory Books here in Barcelona. That's really nice because otherwise, as you might expect, most of the bookstores have books that are in Spanish, and I cannot read Spanish. So we were at Backstory, and I picked up this book called "There Are Rivers in the Sky," by I'm gonna try really hard not to mispronounce her name. Elif Shafak.
Shafak.
Elif Shafak. My mouth misspells words all the time.
And we'll link to it in the show notes.
But I picked up There Are Rivers in the Sky by her, and I tore through it in like a day. It was so good, and I've been telling everybody around me that they have to read this book.
It's been being pushed on me. I know I need to read it.
It was so good. So the next time we went back to Backstory, I asked them, I was like, do you have any? And they were like, we have 3. So the next on my to be read pile, outside of the sequel to Unrelenting, which I currently have, that is
undeniable.
what I'm currently reading.
So good.
So outside of the one I'm currently reading, I picked up 3 of her books, the 40 Rules of Love, the Island of Missing Trees, and 10 minutes, 38 seconds in This Strange World. So I loved There Are Rivers in the Sky so much that I immediately went and bought 3 more of her books.
And that is the way fandoms are built, right? I'm the same way. I just read my first book by Gabino Iglesias, who I'm a fan of on TikTok. I was like, I really ought to read his book. And then I was like, I need to read everything by Gabino Iglesias. It was totally fun. I had an idea that I would try and get Gabino Iglesias to be a guest on this show, because but my thinking was he does these great videos where he kind of calls out bad actors in the publishing industry, men who are abusing women in the publishing industry, people who are using AI in the publishing industry. And so he does these great videos. And I thought maybe if I made a video where I tried to start fake beef with Gabino Iglesias, where
Don't do that.
Where I'm like, I've got a complaint about this new Gabino Iglesias book, but then my fake beef could be something like, it was too short. I want more from you, please. And I can imagine his response, and I won't mimic his accent, but but he has a beautiful voice, and I could just imagine him coming back and being like, "I'm here on my bullshit. There's this author and podcaster, Benjamin Gorman, who's giving me shit because my book is too short. Fuck him." And that would totally be him, And
you told me I wasn't allowed to curse. I've been very careful.
So you can't, I may have just crossed the line by literally pointing at the screen. So we'll see if this gets throttled. Maybe I will have to bleep that out. Okay. So Gabino Iglesias would say, I'm back on my bull something.
Caca del Toro.
Yeah, I'm positive he would not say that. But yeah, his book is it wouldn't sound like Gringa here, but he writes this beautiful bilingual book, and yeah, totally check out No Saints. It was really fun. So, but I'm talking about a book I've already read, and I should be talking about his other books that I'm going to read soon. So, who else should I have on this show as a guest? Who would be your goals?
I mean, come on, we know, we both know Hank Green is like my white whale. I adore Hank Green. Every time we're at conventions or I'm trying to plug Ben's The Sum of Our Gods book, I always ask people have you read any Hank Green? And they're usually John Green. I'm like, no, he's his brother, but his writing is it's not The Fault in Our Stars.
Not to knock John. I love John Green stuff too, but Hank Green's is very different.
Very different voice. But I always tell people, I'm like, if you haven't read Hank Green, what was it? An Absolutely Remarkable Thing?
It's a duology, a science fiction duology, and I love them both, and I can't remember the titles either.
They're so. But
we'll link to them.
But his voice, you have a very similar. It's that witty, dry, sarcastic kind of, but also a mirror in what is going on in society at the same time that is so similar to Hank Green, and I adore Hank Green. That. He's my favorite follow across every single social media platform. Hank Green's the ocean is soup and ice water is lava are my 2 favorite TikTok videos. I will watch them on repeat. If you haven't watched them, go watch them and then tag me when you watch them and tell him that I'm obsessed and he should come on our show.
Yeah,
because Hank Green, absolutely my white whale. He's one of those ones where I would I would be done. I would retire. I would be done.
Yeah,
I'd be my job is done. I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah. We could get John on to talk about tuberculosis too.
We could. There's nothing wrong with that.
Could be John talking about that. If you don't know, tuberculosis is a lot worse than you could possibly have imagined in terms of the way that the world has managed it.
Yeah.
And John Green has written an entire book about it, so I would love to have him on to hear more about TV.
No knocks to John Green. We could have them both on.
Yeah, but they don't. We could have them on separately. They're probably tired of each other.
Anyway, he's my white whale. He's my. If anybody out there knows him, help me out here.
Yeah.
I will even hide outside the room so the entire podcast doesn't devolve into.
No, you can totally fangirl out. I've had some guests on the show where I'm like, I am such a huge fan. I'm just gonna totally Talia Lavin on the show. Sometimes I'll have somebody where I'm just like, I'm just gonna totally fanboy the whole time. And then it works out fine.
When you do your podcast with Chelsea Kane, that's gonna be me. I'm gonna be like, I've met the woman several times, but it still kind of surprises me that she knows who I am.
Right.
I always expect her to be like, who are you?
Same here.
Why are you, you're a New York Times bestselling author, you should not know my name. And I feel like I always have to remind her who I am, and she's like, yeah, I know that. It's very weird. So I'm gonna try really hard. But on the note of Chelsea Kane, who I don't know if I was supposed to mention.
Oh yeah,
her coming up on the podcast.
Oh no, I
don't know if I was supposed to mention
she's
that or not.
She's going to be a guest on the show in September. I'm very.
She's coming.
About that.
Never mind. I don't know what I can and can't say.
We're going to do a live show.
I don't know what
at a bookstore, the English bookstore you mentioned. With
so she's coming to Spain.
This will be a live show, so if you're not in Barcelona, you'll be able to see that one anyway. But if you are in Barcelona, come see her live. Yeah,
I'm really excited about the restaurant I found to take her to.
Yeah.
She's going to love that. On the Chelsea Kane note, I one of my favorite book readings. It's also authors that I would love to have on the show. One of the best book readings, my favorite book readings that I went to was Chelsea Kane, Lydia Yuknavitch, and Chuck Palahniuk all together. In Eugene. It was years ago. I was in college, but it was so good. I would love to have either Lydia or Chuck on the show. They are so much fun.
Oh, Lydia's and both. I've read
the
books
life
by
experience,
both, and they're so talented.
The lived experiences that the two of them have.
Yeah.
Everything that Lydia has been through, and the honesty and the vulnerability she has within her books, is just it is inspiring, and it's also heartbreaking because you don't want to imagine a child having to go through what she has had to go through. And she's local to where we used to live, and I've met her a couple times, and she's a phenomenal woman
and a great supporter of other authors too. They all are, and that's nice to see.
And Chuck is his you talk all you want about Stephen King and his horror and all of that. If you want truly gritty, just gory, make you ill to your
body
stomach.
Horror. Yeah, he does some body horror stuff.
He has a short story collection called Haunted, which has the most horrific cover on it. It has a Scream type face, but it's glow in the dark. With some of the most if you like the blood and gore, and you might want to feel a little faint and maybe vomit as you are reading a story, I would love to have him on, because I you know me, I love my blood and my guts and my horror. Those would be amazing.
Yeah,
they would be so much fun. But I would also have to be you have to sit back and be quiet. You can't talk the whole let.
Yeah, just spend the entire hour telling him how much you enjoy his work.
I love you so much.
Yeah. Well, if Chuck or Lydia, if you're listening to this and you want an hour of somebody telling you how great you are, when you're having a down day,
I can do that.
Just reach out to us and go, I was technically a guest on that show. I didn't say anything. The co-host talked at me the entire time.
We can make little stickers that we can put up over my eyes, the little heart, little heart stickers over my eyes,
animated.
Yeah, and I'll just wear those on the whole time. Just because I love so much.
Well, before we get to our send-off, there are some folks that I need to thank. Thanks to the artist Max Oakland, who reached out and provided one of his songs for our intro song, I Prefer the Dusk. Let Max know you like it by following him on Twitter at Max Oakland with 3 Ds. Thanks to the author Stephen E. Scribner, who's the author of the Taunt Fantasy series. He also makes music under the name S. Eric Scribner. So he gave us the song A Poem from the album Pianosphere that we used during the ad break. Thank you to Stephen E. Scribner for that. If you make music and you'd like your song used on the show, I'd love to highlight a listener's work like Max's or Stephen's song, so email me about that. Thanks to Doug, the producer, for making this show sound good and taking the blame when it doesn't. We appreciate you, Doug. And I cannot forget to mention, Writers Not Writing is a production of NotAPipePublishing, so please go to NotAPipePublishing.com, check out the amazing books written by writers who didn't procrastinate too much. And if you like this show, rate it and review it wherever you found it. Check out the Antifa Lit Journal and Chris's intro to that. And if you enjoy the journal, click on that 5th star, write a sentence or two. It really makes a big difference to authors, and it would make a big difference to all the authors who are in that anthology. So take the time. And similarly for this show, if you see that little thumbs up button in front of you on your podcasting app or on YouTube, just click it an odd number of times. You don't have to smash it. It's fine to just click it. That would not bother me at all, but we would greatly appreciate that. So that brings us to our send-off. As we go into this next week, we want to, give you some advice that potentially could be valuable to you. And so I want to remind you all writing is political, and in the same way, all speaking is political. And not writing or speaking is also political. It's inescapable. You are engaged in a society, right? So don't use silence to maintain the status quo, because that would also be a political choice. Instead, use your voice to make the world a better place. What's your advice for everybody?
My advice for everybody is there is too much hate in the world right now. So spread joy when and where you can. Power always seeks to find conformity. That is how they maintain control. But they want conformity on their own terms. And I don't like that. I don't want to conform, obviously. So fight back. I'm choosing to fight back by being as loud and authentic as I possibly can. Fight back in the way that works for you. Fight back in a way that is safe for you. Exist. Love and joy and acceptance makes them so very uncomfortable, and make them as uncomfortable as you possibly can. That's my new life philosophy. I spent a lot of time conforming so that people would not be uncomfortable, till I realized that those same people did not care that I was uncomfortable. So now, homophobes, bigots, Trumpers, right-wingers, all of those things, now it brings me great joy to make them as uncomfortable as I can. So that's my advice. Yeah. Spread joy, but also make terrible people really uncomfortable.
Here's our bonus segment, just for supporters of the Patreon. So, welcome to the Patreon supporters. We've got a bonus segment just for you. And so, Chrys, I want to ask you about what is something you find interesting that you wish people would ask you more about when you do these kinds of interviews, and you just don't get asked about it enough?
This is so difficult for me because I'm kind of a sponge with random trivia. And so you could ask me just about anything, and I can, from somewhere deep within the recesses of my brain, pull up something. But my current soapbox right now is the intersectionality between adopted children, childhood trauma, and neurodivergence. And that's kind of come from a place of my own therapy and seeing how those three things intermingled in my childhood to kind of create so many of the traumas and so many of the blocks that I am working to overcome. Yeah. So that's the thing that I wish more people were aware of, particularly in a time where we are denying women access to reproductive care. Abortion is health care. Full stop. Period. Abortion is health care. And in a time when more and more people are being denied health care, being denied control over their own bodies and over when and how they choose to bring children into the world. It is such an important topic for me to talk about adoption, because I absolutely hate, you've seen me, when people say just put the kid up for adoption. But nobody pays attention to the inherent, we're just starting to study in the last decade or so, the inherent trauma that comes with being an adopted child. No matter what kind of house you grow up in, you could have the best adopted parents. There is still an inherent base root trauma around the abandonment. And then it becomes even worse for children like me who are placed with, they just hand kids over.
Well, and that's I think that's worth talking about too, is the folks who are busy saying, oh, adoption is an option, adoption is an option. If they're not willing to be adoptive parents, then adoption as an option really is adoption by whom?
Yeah.
Right? And if you had so many parents willing to say, I am willing to take on a child, regardless of what they bring into the household, I'm going to love this child and provide them with the best possible home, then it would allow kind of the system to be selective.
Yeah.
Who are those folks who are really going to be the best parent for this child? We don't have that, at least not in the United States.
Who's least likely to kill this child?
That's all they look at. I had a friend who was a social worker, and one of the things that ground him down was, he said, the bar is what's going to get us on the nightly news.
Yep.
If these people are not going to let this child die, as long as this kid is going to still be alive, there's a great deal of abuse that the system is willing to say, well, they're not getting onto the news, and we just desperately need a place to put this kid.
Well, and that factors even leaving out the all of the children that end up in foster care. And that never get adopted.
Well, it's the same thing. I have known foster parents who are wonderful, and also there are not enough of them.
Oh, my mother was a foster parent, but guess what? She was also incredibly emotionally abusive to one of her children. The one of her children who was neurodivergent.
Right. Yeah.
You asked my siblings; they had an entirely different mother. And
all children have different parents.
All children have different parents, and all children need different parents.
Right.
All children have different needs. You do not mold who your child is. You don't tell your child who they are going to be. This is something I'm learning. You give your child the tools they need to discover who they are going to be. Yeah. And so when we throw out but just adopt, we leave out the inherent trauma that comes behind adoption. We leave out the fact that so many of these kids don't end up adopted. They end up in group homes or foster care. And we leave out the fact that 50% of houseless people in the United States are people that have aged out. They are former foster kids.
Or current. They're still under 18 and could be in foster care.
Half of the homeless population within the United States are kids that were within the foster care system.
Yeah.
Yet we throw out adoption.
Yeah, and the president talks about locking them up.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right.
That's my soapbox.
I like that you use the word intersectionality. This is those, adopted children who have faced childhood trauma, and adults, and people who are neurodivergent intersect, but that's not quite the same thing as intersectionality. So intersectionality is the recognition that competing systems of oppression are often used to keep people down. And so if you said we should focus on adopted children, and somebody else says, well, I was raised by my parents, but I endured childhood trauma, so I'm not going to focus on adopted children. I'm going to focus on children who dealt with trauma. And then somebody else says, well, I didn't have significant childhood trauma, except for the fact that I am neurodivergent and living in a neurotypical world, so I'm not going to think about kids who were adopted, or I'm not going to think about kids who dealt with severe childhood trauma. Intersectionality is recognizing you don't have to be in all three groups to care about people who are in any one of those groups, and recognize that they are people who need your support as well. And seeing those connections as mutual oppression.
There are children that were adopted that cannot relate to what I went through. They cannot fathom how you would not be grateful for your adopted parents. I heard that my whole life. They chose you. You should be grateful. No, when somebody gives birth to a child, do we tell that child you should be grateful they chose to give birth to you? Like
Some people do say that, and they're wrong.
They're also wrong. But it's a thing that I find most common with adopted children, and so adopted children that grow up in wonderful houses, and I don't begrudge them. Good, I'm so glad. They cannot fathom why somebody who was adopted into an upper middle class family. I certainly had clothing. I had shelter. I never went hungry. We took vacations. I grew up incredibly privileged, but I also grew up with my mother reminding me every single day that who I was as a person, because I was neurodivergent, because I was different, because I was loud, did not deserve any of that privilege. And so that, that trauma,
or
love,
and so
love, acceptance, all of that, and so there's this idea that adopted children are more susceptible to childhood trauma based on being adopted, and that's leaving out children that are adopted into families that are, ethically different than they are. Families that are of different social stratuses, different financial situations. All of those factors come into play. But then when you talk about neurodivergent children, they are also susceptible to and more likely to experience childhood trauma just because they are different. And back when I was diagnosed, it was even, more trauma from an entire generation that skipped over the diagnoses, didn't find out until they were adults. And so it's this thing that we don't talk about. We don't talk about how childhood trauma can create neurodivergence. This is a thing that I didn't know this. I spent weeks in therapy talking to my therapist about this, because part of accepting my ADHD and learning how to manage it was learning exactly what it was, instead of the notion that I had when I was growing up is if you just take this pill and you try harder, you'll be able to sit still and then you'll be normal and your mother will love you. But it was learning what it actually was, an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. My body produces dopamine and serotonin. It just gets the signals to cross. My brain doesn't know how to tell my body what it needs at the right time. It doesn't know how to tell my body it's hungry. It doesn't know how to tell my body it's thirsty. Like, my brain doesn't make those connections because my prefrontal cortex was underdeveloped. Guess what happens to children that experience trauma before the age of, I think it's like 7, 13.
I think it's even earlier than that. It's like 3.
Well, no, it goes a little bit later until your prefrontal cortex doesn't fully develop until what, like 24?
For men, it's 29.
But particularly that experience it at a young age.
Right.
Childhood trauma, whether it's CPTSD or PTSD, damages the development of the prefrontal cortex.
And it leads to a kind of,
identity crisis for me.
Yeah, I don't know about identity, but like chicken or egg. Like, then can't know, do I have ADHD and then I had all this childhood trauma? Or did the childhood trauma cause the ADHD?
And
Who knows?
that was
we'll
weeks,
never know.
That was weeks in therapy for me going, was I born with ADHD? Because I'm adopted, so I don't know if it is genetic, because I can't look at cousins and aunts and uncles and siblings or parents and go, yeah, you also have ADHD. I can't look at who might be genetically related to me that also has it to go, okay, yeah, it's genetic. So is it genetic? Was I born with it? Or did my birth mother give it to me? Or did my adopted mother give it to me from the emotional trauma of my childhood? So, I like to choose, I like to say that my ADHD was a gift from both of my mothers.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Yeah, that's my soapbox, but that's often my soapbox, because neurodivergent children, for me in particular, because I was one, I sometimes still am one. Neurodivergent children are my personal. I don't know what word I'm looking for here. I make it a point to be neurodivergent and queer children. They need to be able to look at an adult and say, this is somebody like me. This is somebody like me that accepts me. This is somebody like me that is married, that has children, that has a job, that has a, is semi-functioning in society. Like, I'm an adult. Sometimes I need a supervisory adult to remind me to eat. But it's so important for neurodivergent and queer children to have somebody that they can look at and go, they are like me, and oftentimes those are the voices.
One of the things I know that you take great pride in, and that I really appreciate is when you'll see a neurodivergent child, and often their parents, their neurotypical parents, are going, "I'm so sorry, my kid is stimming," or "I'm so sorry, my kid is fixating on trains," or whatever. Yeah. And to say, no, you will not speak to the parents. You'll speak directly to the child and go, I think the thing you're into is awesome.
One of my least favorite things.
The fact that you're stimming is not going to be problematic in us communicating, and validating that child rather than validating the parent's shame.
I would get it all the time at my store, where the kid would come in and be talking about, how much they love Minecraft. And the parent would go, "I'm so sorry about this." They don't want to hear about all that. And that's the time where you crouch down and you get face to face. "No, this is so exciting. Tell me more." Yeah. "Oh, yes, I do, in fact, want to hear all about your favorite dinosaur. Because I, too, have a favorite dinosaur." Yeah. My favorite dinosaur has a horribly tragic story behind her. And it makes me really sad. Do you want to make whoever's chillin' still cry?
This is the bonus stuff for the Patreon folks. We can go long here.
Do you want to hear something that is going to absolutely, utterly devastate and ruin your day?
What choice do I have?
That's valid. My favorite dinosaur is Ducky from The Land Before Time.
Oh, okay. It's not a dinosaur kind. It's a
My favorite dinosaur is Ducky. The little girl that did the voice for Ducky.
I have heard this.
Is also, I'm pretty sure I have told you this. Mm-hmm. Is also the little voice for the girl in All Dogs Go to Heaven. That little girl and her mother were murdered by her father when she was 10, I want to say 10, and they had finished filming her part of All Dogs Go to Heaven when she died, but Belushi, I want to say Jim Belushi, right?
I think it might have been John Belushi for those.
I'm so sorry. I don't remember which one it was. Did the voice of Charlie, of the dog in All Dogs Go to Heaven. And I saw this just heartbreaking interview talking about he had to come in after getting the news about her and record the end scene where he says goodbye to her. And says, she says that she's like, "I love you, Charlie," and he's like, I'll see you later, kid." They had to record that something like 30 times because he kept breaking down in tears. And now go Google that scene, go Google the end, and you can still hear it in his voice. That last line in the movie as he's flying out, as his spirit is going out the wind. So my favorite dinosaur is a heartbreakingly tragic story.
I hope you don't tell this to neurodivergent children who are like, "I'm really into velociraptors," and you're like, "Let me tell you about Ducky's voiceover narrator character and her tragic death."
No. I only tell adults that are emotionally capable of being devastated.
I don't know that there's any adult that's fully emotionally capable of dealing with that story.
Well, if I have to know it, so do you.
Okay, fair.
No, when it's children, I tell them it's Spike.
Okay. I believe it's Diplodocus is the one that's got the shell. It's almost like a turtle-looking one. It's a great example of parallel evolution where it's not a turtle, not related to turtles, right? And dinosaurs are more bird than they are modern reptiles, and yet it had this exterior kind of shell on its back of these hard plates, and then spikes around that, and then a tail with a ball that it could whack things with.
Now wait a minute.
And it was mostly it's a plant eater.
Now wait a minute. Now wait a minute.
That's Diplodocus.
This is incorrect. You asked me. The context of this was, what is your favorite dinosaur? Not what is your favorite type of dinosaur. If you ask me my favorite type of dinosaur, it's the one with the really long neck. Brachiosaurus? Brontosaurus?
There are a couple.
What's the one with the really long?
Brontosaurus has a really long neck, and then there are a couple that are like super Brontosaurus versions. Yeah, but you like that super
that's my
long
favorite
neck.
type of dinosaur. You didn't ask me my favorite type of dinosaur.
Well, because...
Now do you understand why I like when children ask me about my favorite dinosaur?
Because you think of an individual fictional character and then tell them all.
When you say, what's your favorite movie, you name a movie. Unless you're me and you forget every movie you've ever watched. But if you say, what's your favorite type of movie, that's an entirely different answer.
I was unclear.
It's an unclear question.
We'll end with my unclear question. Thanks for listening, folks, and we will be back next week. Take care.